attack that's taken place in Russia, as well as the immigration, rules that are going to change. This is in the run-up to the US elections, whether it's Biden making new promises or it's Trump taking a complete U-turn. We'll get you all the details. But first, the headlines. 9 people have died in a synagogue church attack in Russia's Dagestan. 25 others have been injured after gunmen attacked places of worship. Foreign Minister Jaishankar visits the UAE. He's holding talks with his counterpart Al Nahyan. Jaishankar met with Al Nahyan in Abu Dhabi. But before that, a first stop at the Babs Temple in Abu Dhabi. India marks the 39th anniversary of Kanishka bombing. Jaishankar snubs Canada over parliament tribute to Niger. Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu says the intense phase of Gaza war is nearing its end, but eyes Lebanon and warns of sending troops to the Lebanon border, while a top US military official has gone on to say that Israeli offensive into Lebanon would risk an Iranian response in defense to the powerful Hezbollah, and has said that could trigger a broader war. The death toll at the Hajj pilgrimage has now risen to more than 1,300 people amid extreme heat. 83% of those who have died did not have an official permit to perform Hajj, and having walked a long distance under direct sunlight without adequate shelter or comfort resulted in their deaths. Let's get to your top story, and that's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, who is in the UAE to hold wide-range talks with his United Arab Emirates counterpart, Abdullah bin Zayed Al Nahyan. The two leaders are also expected to deliberate on overall situation when it comes to the situation in Gaza, besides bilateral relation talks which took place in Abu Dhabi yesterday. Now, before his bilateral with Al Nahyan, the foreign minister also visited the iconic Babs Hindu temple in Abu Dhabi. Do remember, it's a temple that was inaugurated by Prime Minister Modi back in February this year. And Jaishankar's visit allowed the two countries to review their comprehensive strategic partnership, as well as regional and global developments taking place. So this is a very significant visit of the foreign minister in the UAE. He met with Al Nahyan yesterday, and these are visuals of that iconic temple Babs. Before having those talks with his counterpart, he was at the Babs temple. He did describe it as a very significant place. He described it saying that this is a testimony of the relationship that India and the UAE have, saying that this is a symbol of the India-UAE friendship. This is how Jaishankar described the Babs temple, a temple that was inaugurated by Prime Minister Modi back in February this year. So it is quite symbolic of the relationship that's held between the UAE and India, especially given the significance of as far as this visit is concerned. We have my colleague Ghazali joining us. Ghazali, take us through the two leaders who met to assess as far as the bilateral relations in Abu Dhabi is concerned. What all was discussed?
See, this is almost the continuity of Modi 2.0, or the government which was there in power, Mr. Prime Minister Modi's government, and how Mr. Jaishankar was the foreign minister. Now, his visit to the Babs Mandir or participating in the International Yoga Day kind of suggests that how this government is very sort of serious in promoting its ties in the Middle East. And Middle East is already on the boil, so many issues were on the anvil for discussion. But one of them, which is very important, was the situation in Gaza. We know that UAE is a key player in the conflict there, because all the mediation talks, or say the meetings between the Western world and the Arab world, as far as the conflict is concerned, either Qatar is involved or UAE is involved. UAE has been sending a lot of humanitarian aid in Gaza. It has been sending team of medical doctors and all to carry out medical operations there for the victims of whosoever is injured there in Gaza. But besides that, how it is important for India's cultural ties. We saw Prime Minister inaugurating that Babs temple in Abu Dhabi earlier this year. And now Mr. Jaishankar going to UAE after this new government has come to power. It's the second foreign trip of the foreign minister. Earlier he went to Sri Lanka immediately after taking charge as a foreign minister, and now the second visit it is in Middle East. So India and UAE certainly have cultural ties. They also have back in 2022 a comprehensive economic you can say that agreement or a strategic agreement was signed between the two countries. And why this trip is also more important, because we know that during G20, the European Middle East corridor, or what we call the India-European Middle East corridor, was strategized, though none of it has been operationalized yet. But what we are picking up is that Indian Shipping Ministry is also trying to work out on modalities between the seaport connectivity between India and UAE. That is the first leg of the IMEC corridor. So these issues were under discussion between Mr. Jaishankar and UAE's president there during this trip. And also attending the Yoga Day event or going to the Baps temple is also part of the cultural diplomacy of India, because this is the first Hindu temple in UAE, and Mr. Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi inaugurated it. The Foreign Minister was there to visit it before his meeting with his counterpart in the UAE.
Right, thank you so much, Ghazali. We will keep track of that story and coming back to you for more on that. And staying with news of the External Minister, now days after India slammed the Canadian Parliament's moment of silence for Hardeep Singh Nijjar, the External Affairs Minister recalled the 1985 Kanishka bombing in a social media post, saying that it was a reminder why terrorism should not be tolerated. He went on to say today marks the 39th anniversary of one of the worst attacks of terrorism in history. He also went on to say that he was paying his tribute to the memory of the 329 victims of the AI-182 Kanishka who were killed this very day back in 1985. My thoughts are with their families. The anniversary is a reminder why terrorism should never be tolerated. Now, Canada's House of Commons had observed a moment of silence to mark the first anniversary of Nijjar's killing. The External Ministry said that they oppose any move giving the political space as far as extremism is concerned. And switching tracks now, India has made a significant diplomatic move by pledging its support to Bangladesh in the conversation as well. This is the conservation as well as the management of the Tista River, a project valued at $1 billion that was previously under consideration by China. Bangladesh's Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina made a state visit to India, the first state guest to visit India under the new regime, the Modi 3.0 government. And during her two-day visit, she and the Prime Minister decided to send a technical team to assess the comprehensive management and restoration project for the Tista project. Now, this team is visiting Bangladesh even though there's no pact as far as New Delhi and Dhaka is concerned on the sharing of the waters of Tista. The Tista flows through the Indian states of West Bengal, Sikkim and then to Bangladesh and is crucial for agriculture. The division of the river's water has remained a bone of contention between the two countries over decades now. In 2011, the pact was almost sealed by the West Bengal Chief Minister. She did not travel to Dhaka at the last moment. We're talking about Mamata Banerjee, and the deal could not be signed. Now, Prime Minister Modi and the new government has been keen on signing the pact as soon as possible. India has been against China getting in this project, and of course China is aiming at not just the influence but also the strategic hold as far as this project is concerned. In 2020, China is learned to have shown interest in the Tista management project, estimated at $970 million. Now that India attaches immense importance to the Tista River project, it's clear by the fact that amid the Lok Sabha elections, the Foreign Secretary paid a visit to Bangladesh, like we were mentioning earlier, that he did go to, and discuss the Tista issue. But now with India sending a technical team to Bangladesh, it seems to have taken a lead over China on this issue. In other news, very tragic news coming in. 9 people have died, and this is an attack that took place in Russia's Dagestan. 25 others have been injured after gunmen attacked a place of worship. Now, gunmen attacked churches and synagogues in Russia's north region of Dagestan on Sunday, killing 9 people, which included 8 policemen and also a security guard and a priest. The unidentified gunmen launched simultaneous attacks in Dagestan's largest city of Makha-e-Kala. And with that, we're slipping away a short break. Back with a whole lot more. Stay with us.
The biggest democratic exercise in the world. Team NDTV covers it from ground zero.
BJP really had to fight a tough election this time.
Unprecedented exercise. Unmatched coverage.
There is no dispute. जनता को decide करना है.
From polling to counting, NDTV brought you the most trustworthy news and updates. Elections mean NDTV.
Stay informed and entertained with the new and updated NDTV News app. You can watch all our channels live, listen to podcasts, read breaking and exclusive news from around the world and more. Download the NDTV app today and get access to the best journalism and
Now, as the United States heads for ballots later this year, immigration has become a key battleground for both Republicans and Democrats. President Joe Biden recently unveiled a new immigration plan focused on protecting immigrant families while also implementing strong border restrictions. Meanwhile, it's Donald Trump who's made a complete U-turn. He's made surprising comments when it comes to immigrations. Do remember, he'd had very strong views when it came to immigrants. He'd called them criminals. He had gone on to say that they were poisoning the blood of the country. But now he's gone on to promise green cards to foreign students graduating from the United States colleges. To discuss the difference in policies of the two leaders, we have with us Soundarya Bala Subramani, and we also have Sameer Khedkar, the immigration lawyer, joining us. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today. Of course, this is somewhat of a U-turn that we're seeing Donald Trump take, and of course, new immigration laws as far as Joe Biden is concerned. Now, take us through how crucial is immigration as an issue when it comes to the U.S. elections, and are we seeing that Trump and Biden both making various promises on this issue? Can we expect can we expect them to really go through with this? Soundarya, over to you.
I can talk about Donald Trump first. I think when Donald Trump was last president for those 4 years, I can positively say that there was a very big anti-immigrant sentiment that went on throughout those 4 years. And just to give some concrete examples, there were, I think, a 6 to 10x increase in denial rates of H-1B visas during that time period. He banned H-1B and L-1 workers and many other visa workers to enter the country in 2020 during COVID. There was also proposals to cut down on the H-4 EAD program, which is crucial for spouses of H-1B visa holders to work in the country, and the OPT program, which is what students use to work in the country after they graduate. So I think it's very hard to believe this entirely different sentiment of giving green cards to college graduates, which is not even practically possible. And Sameer can talk more about that. So it definitely sounds more like a tactic to gain voters than something that is actually feasible or possible.
Right, Sameer, Trump has completely departed from his extremely anti-immigrants view to a green card proposal. What do you make of this? We've heard him call immigrants animals, not humans. We've heard him call immigrants criminals and drug dealers. Comments such as immigrants are poisoning the blood of our country. And here we have Donald Trump making a complete U-turn.
Well, I agree with Soundarya. I think it's highly unlikely that he would follow through on this promise if he were to become president. First of all, to promise green cards to a whole new group of individuals requires a law change, which he cannot do by himself. That must be done by Congress, not the president. And the last time Congress passed any immigration legislation was almost 25 years ago. So it's highly unlikely a rule of that magnitude would actually occur. So as Soundarya mentioned, he has waged war against high-skilled immigrants in the U.S., dramatically increasing the rates of H-1B denials. As to why he would make such a statement, we can only speculate. I think it's worth considering that he was speaking to a podcast comprised of 4 venture capitalist hosts, one of whom had invited him over to his house for a fundraiser. Venture capitalists are known to be in favor of high-skilled immigration and immigration reform for college graduates because it really helps the startup economy. And so if I were to speculate, I would assume that he was just trying to please them.
Right. So Saundarya, as the polls near, we're seeing President Biden walk a political tightrope, imposing stricter measures when it comes to the borders while passing laws helping immigrants get citizenship. Will Joe Biden's immigration plan benefit Indians ahead of the polls?
Well, recently Joe Biden essentially granted a policy which would give over 500,000 undocumented immigrants access to permanent residency and pathway to citizenship. So far, I haven't really seen any big promises specific to the Indian immigrant crowd. And I've been tracking the policies that Joe Biden's administration have put out over the last year pretty closely. There have certainly been minor improvements in terms of reducing abuse in the H-1B lottery, which they did this year. But I don't foresee any major improvements. And as Samir mentioned, it is not even within a president's jurisdiction to do something major like change the cap of green cards or grant green cards because it's not under their control. And that requires the entire of Congress, which includes the House and the Senate, to pass a law. So I think the president, the most that they can do is pass executive orders and make minor improvements.
Right. Samir, we heard Donald Trump say that students passing out of colleges lose out on jobs because they don't get any visa. And he particularly wants to retain students passing out of universities in the US, particularly from India. So this is giving Indians a lot of hope. But do you think Donald Trump is just going to go back on his word like he always does? And is it, him just, making bold statements?
I do believe it's him making bold statements. If you look at the history of his administration and the policies and procedures they implemented, the regulatory war they conducted on immigrants and the H-1B program during his administration, the nature of his staff members who are vehemently anti-immigrant and continue to be working for him and have a even more restrictive policy and agenda laid out for the following term. I do think it's highly unlikely he'd be able to help pass any sort of rule change like that.
Right. Thank you so much, Samir and Saundarya, for joining us on the show this morning. We will keep discussing this, in the run-up to the elections, which are going to take place later this year in November in the United States. Well, moving on now to more news. And immigration is not just a key issue when it comes to the U.S. polls. It's become a key battleground for the upcoming polls in the United Kingdom as well as France. And from Macron to Rishi Sunak to Biden, leaders are facing immense pressures to control growing immigration. Let's listen in to this report.
As elections loom in the US, UK and France, the fraught politics of immigration have become a key battleground for voters. From US President Joe Biden to French President Emmanuel Macron, Western leaders are grappling with intense domestic pressures to tackle immigration, while rising far-right parties continue to fuel fear amongst voters. In the US, President Biden ordered an expansive election year step last week to offer potential citizenship to hundreds of thousands of immigrants in an attempt to counter his own aggressive crackdown at the US-Mexico border that enraged advocates and many Democratic lawmakers. While Biden tries to walk a political tightrope, Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump, who has historically pushed anti-immigration rhetoric, has also seemed to change his mind, proposing green cards to foreign students graduating from US colleges to keep high-skilled workers and students in the country. Meanwhile, the UK heads to the polls next week, where Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's Conservative Party continues to push for the controversial Rwanda scheme, which has yielded little results so far.
Stephen, immigration is too high, and we will need to take bold action to bring it down, whether that's legal migration, where we're going to introduce a new legal cap to guarantee that it will come down every year, or the boats, which you mentioned, where we got the numbers down last year by a third, and now we have a deterrent ready to go. Migrants have been detained, the flights will go in July, but only if I'm your Prime Minister.
On the other hand, Labour's Keir Starmer aims to do away with the plan and instead build a new border and security command to stop smuggling of illegal immigrants.
We need to smash the gangs that are running this vile trade, making a huge amount of money, putting some of the most vulnerable people in boats across the channel. They're making a fortune.
Immigration will also be a crucial issue in the French snap polls next week. Marine Le Pen's far-right National Rally party has fundamentally changed the debate, pushing President Macron's once liberal coalition far to the right, leading to tougher immigration policies in the country. However, the National Rally's proposed immigration policies are much more drastic, including further restrictions on attaining French nationality, cutting immigration levels, and much more. With far-right parties gaining numbers across Europe, pushing to stop immigrants from entering the region, and uncertainty on America's asylum policies, migrants face a dilemma. Either stay in their countries being ravaged by wars and climate change, or leave and face persecution over countries' increasingly strict asylum rules.
And moving on, the United Kingdom is heading to polls on the 4th of July, a crucial election that's expected to hand the Conservative government its worst defeat in history and bring Labour back to power. And this is going to happen after 14 years. Latest polls show both Labour and the Conservatives are down in points. And despite Labour's drop, the Conservatives are still 20 points behind with Reform UK, now only 2 points behind the Tories. An official from Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's Conservative Party is also being investigated by Britain's gambling regulator over allegations that he placed bets on the date of the general election before it was announced, is what the Sunday Times has reported. Britain's Gambling Commission has already been reported to be investigating 2 Conservative election candidates and the party's director of campaigning over bets on the date of the July 4th election. Now, the Indian diaspora in the United Kingdom is making up roughly 2 million people and will be keeping a close eye on the polls. And we have my colleague Radhika Iyer, who spoke to a diverse group of people of Indian origin in London to find out what's on their mind ahead of the elections, which will be taking place later next week.
Hello and welcome to this very special edition on NDTV. We are coming to you from a very, very vibrant park. It's a summer day, and within a couple of weeks we're having the UK vote. And this general election is different from every other we've had. Just a month ago, India voted. Did you guys watch that with great attention?
Oh my God,
yes.
Throughout the day. Like
oh my God, wasn't it? Yes, from 4 in the morning. And now here on the 5th of July.
4th of July.
No, 4th of July we are voting,
yeah.
And by 5th of July early in the morning we will know who is forming the next government. Yeah. Polls of course are indicating that the Labour is having an advancement with their constituencies, but we will know. And the reason I'm here talking to so many wonderful and such a diverse group, thank you guys for joining us on this program, is because Indian origin voters here in the UK coming from a variety of backgrounds, and I'm going to quickly introduce.
I'm Smita Pandey and I'm a CBT therapist. I'm in mental health.
A CBT therapist from mental health. Shivani?
I'm Shivani Sharma. I'm a criminal solicitor.
A criminal solicitor.
I'm Ishika. I'm an undergrad at Oxford right now.
Okay, an undergrad at Oxford and a first-time voter.
Yeah, a first-time voter.
Yes, of course. Jyoti.
I'm a Jyoti Pandey and I'm a criminal defense lawyer.
A criminal defense lawyer.
I'm Megan Tandon and I'm a student.
A student, okay.
Sudhanshu Sharma, I run a law firm.
Running a law firm. We have quite a few lawyers apparently.
Apurav Sharma, student.
A student, okay.
I am a business leader in IT industry.
IT industry, great. Thanks, Yogesh.
It's Himanshu. I'm from the legal profession.
Another solicitor.
And this is Jignesh. I'm an artist.
An artist, yay, one from the creative fields. So what a vibrant, diverse group I have. And this is, the reason I'm meeting you is because I'm treating you as a sample group, right, of persons of Indian origin. And I'm trying to get into the mind of the Indian origin voter living in the UK on what issues they will keep in mind. And I'll go to you first because you're a first-time voter. Mm-hmm. What's in your mind? What are you going to do before the 4th?
I think look at the manifestos first, because I think I don't really know much about the parties as a first-time voter. This is what I've seen in university as well. Most people don't really know. They look at the leaders, as in like Keir Starmer and Rishi Sunak, and that's literally their whole view of the party, not exactly what the party stands for. So I think one thing I'll look into is the manifestos first.
That's so different from how Indians otherwise have been voting. Do you agree?
Yeah, definitely.
Have you ever read a manifesto?
Not at all. I'm like literally reading newspaper and whatever I'm getting, but definitely read manifesto, and I am in mental health. I'm in health sector. Definitely I'm interested what are the policies, like health policies, like NHS.
Yes.
NHS is overburdened and excess is a biggest problem for Indian community. And in 5 years, I think I have treated 4 or 5 Indian clients, which is like really, really shame, you know. So what are their health policies? Because if I can't access, just forget about the equality, disparity and all those other things.
Yes.
And waiting list, considering the waiting list, trained staff, the staff well-being, retention is the biggest problem.
Yes. And just the pressure on the health system, and we are interested as well.
But it's not just the NHS, it's a criminal defense sector as well. They are cutting loads and loads of benefits. Now there's very less criminal defense lawyers, there are very few duty solicitors. These are the problems. They need to look into all these things. And also when it comes to the contract, they don't release the contract, the pay is very low. Solicitors, they go to magistrates court for £50 and they spend whole day there.
Right. So who is this they? Are you talking about the government? The government. So is this anti-incumbency reflecting in all your comments?
Anti-incumbency definitely reflecting, but yeah, it's not just the incumbency. If Labour comes in, they need to look at everything. It's not, I will not say just NHS or criminal justice system, it's everything. The tax as well. Look at the inflation.
So is there hope? Is there hope that if the Labour comes in?
So the problem is here again, from the economics point of view, if I'll say, we are the taxpayers. Everybody is a taxpayer.
Yes.
And Indian community is a significant, very small community in the UK size in terms of the size.
Agreed.
But if you see in terms of our contribution to the financial side, we contribute much. And
allow me to. It's huge. Allow me to let our viewers know that the Indian community is among it's the third largest in the UK, proportionately offering a way bigger, it's like a tiny piece of community that's really lifting heavy weight on the economy. It's the second it's between the second and the third largest contributor to the British economy. Go on.
And that's where the point comes in, that any government which sits in the chair, right, and comes up with the financial austerity measures where our taxes which we pay is being spent on unproductive humanitarian scope, right? That's where the challenge is, right?
Give me examples. What's been unproductive? Where has your tax money gone waste in the last 5 years? Or 10 years?
I think the way the funding been cut from all public sectors. You name a course, Jyoti mentioned it, you name a NHS, you name a probation, you name a all councils. All councils being taken away with the money.
Yeah.
Planning system is so difficult to get to the housing.
Yeah.
I think not more than 3 or 4 councils all around the UK meeting their housing targets. All other are underperforming. If you name particularly Hounslow here, I think we are around 8,000 less housing which is in requirement.
And moving on now, this is a gesture of goodwill and an act of pineapple diplomacy. It's Tripura's Chief Minister Manik Saha who sent 500 kilograms of queen pineapples to Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina through the integrated checkpost. The truck carrying the pineapples travelled across the border, reinforcing the friendly relationship shared by India and Bangladesh, with a special emphasis on the connection between Tripura and Bangladesh. Pineapples from Tripura are famous for their quality and their sweetness, making them a fitting gift to represent the warmth and friendly relations between the two nations. And with that, it's a wrap on this bulletin. Thank you so much for watching.
लोन मिलेगा या नहीं, ये आपके क्रेडिट स्कोर पे डिपेंड करता है। आज ही जाइए पैसाबाजार.com पर और अपना क्रेडिट स्कोर चेक कीजिए फ्री में, क्योंकि लोन की जरूरत किसी को भी कभी भी पड़ सकती है। चल एक्टिंग थोड़ा भेल बनो। पैसाबाजार.com।
Some people say the metaverse will only be virtual. One day this lecture hall will be made of code.